So obviously, I've been thinking about this one for a minute, for an absolute minute. Obviously, you guys already know Liverpool have sacked Arne Slot at the time of this video. At the time of this video, it looks like Iraola might be the gaffer to come in and manage Liverpool again at the time of this video. So just keep that in mind whilst you're watching this video. But you've probably seen the thumbnail, title, whatever. And listen, before everybody starts attacking me and what is he talking about and all, just hear me out at least. If you're gonna disagree, at least watch the full video and then cuss me if you want to cuss me afterwards, right? But one of the things I've been thinking about is whether it was going to be Arne Slot, whether it's Iraola, whether whoever, it doesn't actually matter, right? One of the main things that I was trying to figure out is what do you do with Szoboszlai? Like, what's his positioning going into next season? Now, he's been, would I say, Liverpool's best player this season, right? Playing in that kind of, well, right back, central midfield. He's dropped deeper at times. I think he's appeared on the wing a few times. You can kind of see here anyway that he's played in several positions, right? And obviously, Liverpool's needed him in there. They've needed him. You know, they've just either lacked players, certain players just not really up to par, etc., etc. And it's so crazy when you actually deep that this season, this would be the season that he gets his best numbers, 25 GA, I believe, in 53 games. That's pretty decent GA. Do you get what I'm saying? Considering what we were used to when it came to Szoboszlai. So I was trying to sit here and I was thinking, like, and again, this is just more me, I guess, putting it out there and just seeing what kind of, as they say, you throw enough shit at the wall, see what kind of sticks, etc., etc., right? But when it does come to, you know, someone like Szoboszlai, obviously he's been used in the right back area quite a bit. Now, from what I've heard today, anyway, in regards to Conor Bradley, I think his injury might be worse. It could be wrong. It might even be gas. But regardless, anyway, I think most Liverpool fans can agree that Liverpool do need to sign another right back. Don't really trust Jeremy Frimpong. He's a player that I don't even know what you're going to do with him. So we're probably going to have to talk about him at another time. But at this moment in time, I'm only really looking at like a Conor Bradley as the right back in the Liverpool team, right? No matter the manager, it's just he's the only one that I can say I can trust to a certain degree. And I don't even think he's good enough. Someone like Szoboszlai, again, like I say, obviously he's been the central midfielder, and obviously that's probably where he's had better games, but he's had some games in at right back where I thought, okay, cool, what you offer in that position, and this is like forms another conversation, you know, talking about like hybrid players, you know, players who can play in on the team sheet, they're in one position, but they move into different areas of the pitch because of their own abilities, whether it be passing, whether it be dribbling, whether it be, all of that powerful runs and all these kind of various different things, right? It's usually because of the passing and the powerful runs and being able to invert more often than not. So we've seen with Myles Lewis-Skelly as an example, you know, playing in at left back, but then being able to invert into that middle of the park. Nico O'Reilly is obviously currently doing that, you know, for Manchester City. And even just other various different players, you know, like Harry Kane seems to drop deep into this like central midfield kind of position. Ousmane Dembele does, you know, kind of a similar thing. Vitinha drops into that centre back position. I think more and more as football goes on, we are looking at players to be able to play more than one role. So when we're talking about Dominik Szoboszlai, and I'm trying to think, Liverpool fans, we keep saying, okay, we want, most Liverpool fans will say we need at least two defenders, right? I think that's kind of been the, would I say, quote unquote, agreed kind of thing. We need at least defenders. We need two midfielders. We need two midfielders to be able to come in, regardless of who leaves. It doesn't really matter. We just want two new central midfielders, right? And then obviously you've got Florian Wirtz. What do you do with him? But again, we can get onto that another time. I'm looking at Szoboszlai and I'm thinking, it's not even necessarily about just trying to shoehorn him into a position. I'm not really bothered whether he starts or doesn't start, to be honest. I think you can upgrade in any position, really and truly, right? Unless it's like Haaland or Vitinha that you're trying to upgrade upon this, it's going to be very difficult. But when I look at Szoboszlai and I look at his kind of style of football, and then obviously I look at what Liverpool kind of lost this season when you're talking about players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, Luis Diaz, Nunes, and etc., right? One of the main things, obviously, with Liverpool has obviously been their build-up and how they kind of, get themselves out, of certain situations, and also just how they play out from the back. And again, the build-up in itself. I do think that someone like Szoboszlai can help with that. And this is me just, I'm not saying don't go and sign a right back. I'd rather they go and sign one. But let's say they don't do that and they can't really find one that they, particularly like, right? So then you're thinking, okay, well, we need to find those solutions. And I know we hate that, internal solutions. That was something that Klopp, it's like a new signing and, all of these kind of things, which can be annoying. But I actually think in this case, it may actually help, Liverpool moving forward. Someone like Szoboszlai, you can kind of see here the positions he picks up the ball in anyway, and some of his own passing range, in that position. Obviously, it's not a Trent Alexander-Arnold, but it's good enough. It's definitely better than anything else that Liverpool currently have. Of course, if they can sign something better, then no problem. But I do think having him in those kind of areas where I actually think he's quite comfortable playing in those areas. He's comfortable. If I go back to his heat map originally, look at the areas of the pitch that he's already operating in. Now, obviously, of course, he's played in right back position. So obviously that's going to be highlighted anyway. But you can see in that kind of right half space almost, that right kind of attacking midfield space. He loves that position. He loves getting in those kind of areas, and being able to do stuff like this where he can put the ball into the box. He's got very good technique when he does kick a ball anyway. So he likes being in those kind of positions. Now, having that player who can obviously sit in that kind of right back / moving into midfield, obviously that's what we were talking about with Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? And that was obviously something I think we remember the season where I think Liverpool finished 4th or 5th. I think 5th. Can't remember. I think it was 5th. And we had a really good run towards the end of the season. One of the main things was obviously pushing Trent into this kind of area here. The same position you can see Szoboszlai on your screen right now. Those are the kind of areas that you almost want to get a player like him on the ball. Now, obviously, then that means you're kind of then forming a back three. But again, that's a different conversation, in itself. I think you can get Szoboszlai into these kind of areas, and I think he can actually be very effective for Liverpool. Almost, I don't want to say free reign because nothing's really a free reign, right? It's all systems and tactics and understanding who the jobs that each player should and shouldn't be kind of doing. But I think with Szoboszlai, having him in these areas where I believe he's a lot more comfortable, I just think it'll be more effective for Liverpool going forward. Again, this is on the basis that you're not able to get a right back of sufficient kind of quality, because even if you do get in a right back, is this obviously it's a new manager coming in, so maybe his build-up play might be a lot more different. And obviously, if you guys watch my Iraola video, you'll see the kind of differences between an Arne Slot and an Iraola, even just in terms of the build-up in itself. But wouldn't having Szoboszlai in these kind of areas here, wouldn't it help him being pushed into that middle, of the park? Obviously we know Konate, it looks like at the time of this video that he might potentially be leaving. Does that then change things? Because then you don't really have that kind of channel defender. You don't really have that guy who probably a bit more comfortable defending in these kind of areas. Potentially, obviously, we don't know what Xhaka or Leone, or even a new centre back might potentially look like in that kind of area. But I'm just looking specifically at Szoboszlai, and I'm just thinking to myself, these are positions that he's already taking up on the pitch. Ultimately, if Liverpool are then looking to then go out and sign potentially, I don't know, 2 more, midfielders, I don't really see a space for him in that kind of midfield, but I do think that his qualities can actually help Liverpool going forward. So if I can get him into these areas of the pitch where he does have that license to be able to come infield and almost kind of congest the middle of the park, yes, he's going to need to work quite a lot on his actual defending and positioning. But I mean, Mateus Nunes has been able to slot in at right back and no one said a word. Do you know what I mean? He definitely doesn't even have the passing range of a Szoboszlai. He definitely doesn't have the running kind of energy and endurance of a Szoboszlai. So if he can do it, not saying there's not going to be some teething, problems with that, but why not have him in these kind of areas and these kind of positions where he can play those passes, he can drive with the ball, and then you get someone to kind of sit in whoever that midfielder or player might actually be. I just think it might work moving forward for Liverpool if you at least think about having Szoboszlai. Now, I did obviously hear as well that he's not, I think he was, apparently reports are suggesting that he wasn't too happy about having to play in that right back position. I totally understand it and I totally get it. Ultimately, when you've got midfielders like Gravenberch, McAllister, Jones, who you're looking at and you're saying, I'm way better than these guys and I'm performing at a higher level than these guys, especially this season, I can understand because they're playing in your position, right? And obviously you don't want to be playing in a position that's not your primary position. But I do think that going forward, again, depending on who the manager is at the time, of this video is Iraola, but whoever it is, I just think that might be something that they may potentially want to just take a look at. Just take a look at. Again, you might not be able to sign that right back, but wouldn't you want one who can pass a football really, really well, can get the team actually up the field a lot better than most other right backs? He's got the energy. He can get up and down the pitch. We've seen him do it countless of times this season. He's not a bad, would I say, defensive player. But then again, let's just say, just for argument's sake, even if you do believe that, I mean, Trent wasn't pulling up any trees. You get what I'm trying to say? But that wasn't what he was in the team for. And I just think that going forward for Liverpool, they need to be a lot more, whoever the manager is, whoever's signing the players, whatever it is Liverpool are trying to do, you need to start understanding certain players' abilities and what they can actually do to help the team. And I think someone like Szoboszlai, having him in these kind of areas, for me, I'm probably a bit more comfortable because I'm not even saying that he should be dropped. Let's put it this way: if anyone in the midfield needs to stay in the midfield at this moment in time, it's going to obviously be him. It's Gravenberch, McAllister, Curtis Jones. They're the ones I'm looking at and thinking, maybe not so. You haven't shown me that you deserve to actually be in there. So it would be Szoboszlai to stay there. But I am thinking if you are then looking to potentially sign some new midfielders, you can, and by the way, it doesn't then mean he can never go in and play in that central midfield position if needs be. Of course he can. He's shown he can easily do that. I'm just saying, can't he do the same role as a Nico O'Reilly at Manchester City or a Myles Lewis-Skelly at Arsenal? Yes, we know Myles Lewis-Skelly obviously now he's appearing in the midfield, but we saw how brilliant he got into the England squad, made his debut, scored on his debut, coming from that left back position, driving into the midfield, kind of area. And I just think that it would potentially work, for Liverpool. And also as well, I think it will help to provide a little bit more stability in the middle of the park. Yes, in the wide areas, it might be at times, but that's like anywhere on the pitch. There's going to be spaces, at times. How do you nullify that? How do you change that? Calafiori seems to be able to do that. Jurriën Timber sometimes is seen dropping into the kind of DM position when Arsenal are on the ball. That's kind of more what I'm looking at this moment in time. And I do think Liverpool need to start looking at, it's almost like ways to evolve the way that they kind of play, moving forward. Again, like I said, I'm not saying that someone like Szoboszlai should stay there. I'm really, really not. But I am thinking might be something to potentially take a look at. But let me know. Let me know, guys. Let me know what you guys kind of think. Let me know how do you guys kind of see it. You don't want to see him in that kind of right back position, inverting. You wouldn't mind seeing him. Maybe he plays a little bit deeper. I don't really know, guys. Just let me know your thoughts in the comment section about Dominik Szoboszlai and where you see him fitting into this new Liverpool team with a new manager. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Same energy. Stay blessed. I'll catch you guys soon.